I'm into a lot of different things. I'm a very versatile person, if you will. I like music, I like art, I like ice cream. But I think that's everyone. It's no surprise that I'm a nerdy person that likes comic books, movies, anime, video games, and all that kind of stuff. No surprise, I've been not shy in the least about sharing what I really do enjoy and what my interests are. About 2 years ago now, I was finally introduced to a little phenomenon called Dungeons and Dragons, which I know that's probably one of the most nerdy things that you can do. However, I kind of think that now that D&D is now a little bit more mainstream, what with Stranger Things being a very prominent role of Dungeons and Dragons being that entire show's premise, basically D&D's been more mainstream. I definitely think that Magic is probably now the winner of the most socially awkward, dirty thing that you could be into. No offense to any Magic players out there. I never really got into that realm, that community or that corner of area that so many people are passionate about. It wasn't until about 2 years ago that I was finally introduced to the game fully, and then 2 years ago I was introduced to it again, but with more of a focus on being more serious into it, and oh man, I jumped down a rabbit hole. Don't quote me this because I don't really know at the top of my head, but I believe D&D has been around since the 70s. I think the original Red Box Adventure was in the 70s. It's kind of cool to play this board game and be a part of something that has such history for tabletop board games. It's essentially considered a tabletop game, a tabletop board game, except this board game you can play over the course of 30 years. I've heard of people that have D&D sessions that they're still playing the same game for 30 years, which is incredible. Dungeons and Dragons pretty much the crux of a lot of just fantasy in general. Like any movie or video game or just any fantasy kind of thing probably had roots and influences from Dungeons and Dragons. And this goes without saying that once you are interested in a new hobby or just an interest in general, you get open to a community, similar interests that you in terms of like the music or the art or Dungeons and Dragons, for example. And the D&D community is so interesting. You have new people such as myself. I've only been playing for like 2 years seriously, that we're still kind of getting the ropes about how to play it and whatnot. And then you have people who have played since the original Red Box, like in the 70s or 80s, back then. And it's just a really, really cool community to be a part of that can span the age of from the, I don't want to say old, but older folks, and even kids play. And Dungeons and Dragons has quite a bit of math that's involved with it, in terms of like rolling your dice, and then you have to add a couple numbers and see what the result is. I think it's a great tool for kids to learn how to do basic arithmetic and have a fun and engaging board game that they can play that is supplemented by anyone can play. It's so easy and simple, and it's all about the storytelling, which I really like, being a avid person that did a lot of theater growing up and just is into voice acting and just acting and just movies and sceneries and just imageries and just set pieces. This is perfect within the last 2 years, has led me to being so much more of a interesting storyteller. Yeah, you get to role play, you get to create these characters, and you get to kind of act them out, and it's very theatrical, which is something that I really like. This game is actually pretty hardcore. I was looking at pieces that you can buy to like make set pieces and make maps and stuff with that. You can buy actual pieces to make them like a castle or something, and it looks really good. The things online are fantastic, but they're so expensive, and sometimes the maps go from like 30 by 50 space mats, and it's just imagining how much, like literally some sets of pieces cost like 400 bucks. That's insane, but I still want to spend all my money on just making these awesome set pieces. You can really get into Dungeons and Dragons, and it's more than just a nerdy game that people have been playing for 4 decades. It really is a special type of tabletop game where you're, oddly enough, you really bond with the people that you're playing. Two people that I play with, I did not know them at all. I was introduced to them by a friend. Talked to them twice. Said, "Hey, do you want to play Dungeons and Dragons?" They said, "Sure." Now I consider them pretty good friends. I imagine that I'll still be playing Dungeons and Dragons for a long, long time. It's that good of a game. It's just really good fun. Make and be weird and play in a sandbox and just kind of go back to your inner childhood roots of just imagination, and that's why I really enjoy it. So next time, if you think in a negative light, if you're thinking of D&D as a negative light, I don't know, maybe look up some gameplay of it, or just read a story about it. Maybe even try it out yourself. All you need is the papers to make the character sheets, a set of dice, and your imagination.